So this is our second watercolor painting. For this one, we're going to go ahead and use two-point perspective. There's nothing really special about this drawing other than that I've moved the points slightly outside of the paper here. So I've got one over here and I've got one over here. And that's just so that the building is slightly less fish-eyed. But you'll see that just like any two-point perspective, everything is either going to the one point or it's going to the other point, here, here, etc. And by this time, you should be kind of good at it. And I've used all the same things that I've done in some of the drawing exercises. For instance, to find the peak, I just found the center of the building by drawing an X through it and drawing straight up. That's how I got the peak. And when I was making the windows over here, I just divided the wall in half, found the halfway point, and then found the windows in here. I got them placed in the center of all their places just by drawing X's. That's in another lesson, and I'm not going to bore you with it right now. What else? Just that I put the horizon line a little bit low on this one, so it gives us a sense that we're coming up the hill to see this nice little cabin that's out in the woods. All right. Now in the last painting, I did it with sort of a sunset. This one, I'll go ahead and I'll do it with just a nice clear blue sky. And I think that's good because oftentimes, no matter what I do, the kids tend to copy. And with this one, I don't want you to copy it. I want you to use the lessons that we've learned so far and make your own design. Okay, here we go. I've got my watercolors. I've got some water. I've got just a couple of brushes, a bigger wash brush, a small detail brush, and sort of a medium-sized brush right here, and some paper towel. Very important to have a little bit of paper towel or something with you. Okay, so now just like before, I'm going to start this off by putting a little bit of water all the way around. One thing that I notice is that the students tend to use a little bit too much water. Remember, this is not watercolor paper. This is just heavy drawing paper. It's 80-pound paper. Just the kind of stuff that you'd find in a school. So you can't soak it out too much. So you see, I've got that brush in there, just dipped a little bit, and just going to spread that water around, not too much. Okay. And what that's going to do is that's just going to allow my colors to blend a little bit. Now, I'm starting with the blue sky, so I'm just going to take some of my water right there. And remember, I'm going to use the water in the tray here. I think I'll go ahead and use this wash brush. That'll just be fine. And start with my sky up here. And don't overload the paper with too much water. That's probably the biggest thing that you can do. So you can see I'm being economical with my paints and just spreading it. Okay, getting a nice little covering of the water everywhere. Now, I might come back and darken the sky in some more, right? So I'm not worried about getting it all right now. The other thing that you'll see is that I'm not worrying about getting the blue into my tree or into the house or anything. In fact, you know, when I think about a painting, I think about the colors that I'm going to use and make sure that they're compatible and see how I'll use them. The other thing too is that I'm starting very light in color, just like when I started with the yellow before, it was very light. Now, if I want to preserve any of my white, then I won't paint in that area with any of this blue here. But I think that this all is going to be just fine with the very light layer of blue that I am ending up putting on it. So now oftentimes when you work with watercolors, you might have more than one painting going at a time because you might need the painting to dry a bit. And it's going to be the same thing here. I think I'm going to go ahead and let this dry a little bit and start working on my next painting. The next painting, by the way, is going to be an open thing. You can do what you want. Okay, just using the brush here to take out a little bit of the paint and smooth it off. Okay, but notice that I have not let my paper get too stressed. I got a little bit of a stress going on here, but I think that's going to be okay. And the trick to that is, once again, not getting too much water in it at once. Okay. So I've been letting this painting dry, and in the meantime, I've been starting another painting. And I think this one is just about ready to go. It's only really been about 15 minutes, but as you can see, it's a lot drier already than what it was. Before I get this one started, what I would do is I would check my tape, make sure that it is good and firm everywhere, because the water really has a strong action of pulling the paper up out of the tape. The other thing too is, while I have this moment, I did want to show you one more thing on the drawing. If you'll notice, I've got shingles laid out on the roof here. And, I didn't draw every single shingle. That would just be ridiculous, right? But I did want them to look, right. And so to do this, I drew a grid on this roof. Just a simple grid. You have lines going this way and lines going this way, right? Well, the lines going this way were easy enough because I just took and I just went to the vanishing point, right? But the lines going this way were a little bit different. You see, so when I've got this inclined plane going up this way and this way, of course what's going to happen is that they will eventually merge. So if we look up here, you'll see that I've attached another little piece of paper, just tacked it on with a little piece of tape, right? And that made it long enough that I could get this point. So if you'll look here, we just got this one, and it's going right up the side of the roof, and right over here, right up the side of this roof right here, and that's where they came together. Oh, by the way, how did I get this slope right here? Well, I drew my box, the original sort of box that the house was, and I just drew an X in the back, and that gave me the center point. Nice and accurate. So, with that, I was able to just lay out, some squares going this way. See, and everything's lined up, along with the squares going this way, and that acted as a guideline. It made things a lot easier. And so I'm going to start working on it again. Let's say you'd begun the process at the beginning of class, then it was pretty wet, so you put it aside, you started working on something else, and you might still have another 10-15 minutes left of class. This would be the perfect time to put in maybe a second layer in. And all I want to do now is just maybe make the blue a little bit stronger, maybe even mix the color a little bit. So I've got the blue right here, right? And I think what I'll do, I'm take a clean brush because I don't want to pollute my other colors, and I'm going to take a little bit of purple because this blue is a little bit like a cyan blue, and I want it to be a little bit more like an aquamarine, right? So I'm going to add just a skosh of purple in there, not much at all, and I think that should be okay. A little bit more water, and let's see how it goes. Yeah, that's not too bad. I could probably even put a little bit more purple into it. Let's see. The water, back with just a little bit more of that purple color. And give it one more try while it's still nice and wet. Yeah, that's a better color. And I'm just going to come on down. I'm not going to worry about my tree because my tree is going to be green, right? Well, blue's part of green, so that's no big deal. And I'll let it get lighter as it goes down. And I'm not going to worry about my roof because my roof's going to be pretty dark anyways, right? And so then I'm not going to worry even too much about my building because I'm going to have that be a compatible color with the sky. And in any case, now as I want it to get lighter as it comes down, I'll be using a little bit more water just to lighten that up and blend it. And so the blue that's going to be going into the building is not going to be very dark anyways. Okay, so there you go. I've just darkened up the sky a little bit. I worked fairly quick, not to stress out my paper. And maybe right about now it's I don't know, it's time to go maybe, who knows, right? Um, but if it wasn't at the end of class, if it was at the beginning of class, then I could go ahead and while this is drying up here, I could be working all down here, no problem.